the Oregon Bioscience Incubator. I am the Programs and Operations Specialist here. Welcome to this Lunch and Learn titled Biotech Business Bootcamp Session 2. So while we get settled, we have some housekeeping items. Please stay muted and introduce yourself into the chat. We would love to get to know you. I'm going to be putting my LinkedIn information in there, as well as Renee Miller, who is also joining us from OBI. She is the associate director. She will also be putting her LinkedIn into the chat. We would love to connect if you guys also wanted to put your LinkedIn in the chat as well. We will cover questions during the Q&A portion at the end of the program. So feel free to post questions in the chat or hold on to your questions and we will address them during the Q&A time. Let's see here. Next up, we have our Leading with Traditions slide. Our land acknowledgement. We'll also be putting this link in there. We would love for you to take a look at that and see what our land acknowledgement is all about from the Portland Indian Leaders Roundtable. So Biotech Business Bootcamp Session 2. So in this Lunch and Learn, Tara Dahl joins us for part 2 of a 3-part series that will equip you with the essential tools needed to navigate the complexities of the biotech industry. So in case you missed session 1, you can check out session 1 of the Biotech Business Bootcamp with the link in the chat. It'll take you straight to that YouTube there. So as the Executive Director of the Oregon Tech Works Association, Tara brings a wealth of experience and a deep commitment to fostering growth within Oregon's tech community. With a background in management, organizational leadership, and a diverse range of skills in sales development and event planning, she is dedicated to empowering businesses to thrive. Tara's expertise in guiding startups and established companies alike makes her a valuable resource for those looking to advance their biotech ventures. Her passion for connecting people and driving innovation is at the heart of her work, making her a key figure in Oregon's tech ecosystem. So in the chat, I will also be putting Tara's LinkedIn and also the LinkedIn for Oregon Tech Works Association. Please check them out. And Tara, on to you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Adrienne. Thank you for that kind introduction. And hello, everybody. Thank you guys for joining us again for part 2 of our Biotech Business Bootcamp. I'm really excited to be partnering with OBI on this to bring some valuable resources and information to you guys. So I'm going to share my screen and we will get the PowerPoint going here. Okay. So as we mentioned, this is session 2. If you missed session 1, Adrienne's put the link in there. I highly recommend you check it out. Session 1, we started with talking about having a good financial strategy and being able to market yourself and get your name and your brand out there. Those are 2 foundational things for biotech companies to do as they're starting out. And so now, as we've progressed, we are going to be talking about recruiting, hiring, and employee benefits. There are definitely different challenges and nuances that go into that for biotech companies. And we're going to cover those today. So we are going to be at the point where we're assuming that you are ready to hire and bring on people to your biotech startup. So here's an agenda for today. We're just going to kind of talk about the hiring and recruiting process for biotech. We'll talk about creating a strong employer brand and why that's important. We'll also go over benefits and kind of what you should consider when you're looking at a benefits package for your employees. And then we will also talk a little bit about compliance. So there are definitely some things to consider with compliance. And then we will end with a Q&A session so you can ask all your questions. So before we talk about hiring and recruiting, I know Renee's got a poll question that she'll stick up there. And I just would like to know if you guys can answer this for me. Have you hired employees or are you looking to hire employees in the future? We're about 50-50 right now. Okay. So it looks like about 50% have hired employees and 50% have said no, but I'm planning to in the future. And so I think that if there's any anomalies out there, it's maybe that you're not planning on hiring at any time in the near future, and that's okay. So thank you, Renee, for putting that up there. So when we talk about hiring and recruiting in biotech, there's definitely some nuances to keep in mind, right? And so when you're hiring for employees in the biotech field, it is very specialized. And obviously this is something that if you're in the biotech world, you know this. You need scientists, you need people who are skilled in things like molecular biology, clinical research, also regulatory affairs. So it's not just straight you could go cross industries usually, right? This is very specialized. You need to have those hard skills and that information that's not necessarily transferable from other sectors. So when you're thinking about who you're hiring, those are some things you really need to keep in mind. That does lead to, and I read this as I was doing the research on, putting this presentation together, that there is a talent shortage in the biotech industry right now. And so because of the rapid growth of the biotech industry just in the last 5 to 10 years, that has led to a shortage of folks in the candidate pool. So this is making things very competitive. And I know maybe if you've already hired employees or if you are planning to in the near future, you've kind of found this to be true, that a lot of times you're maybe having to go kind of outside of where you're wanting to hire, which hopefully we're all wanting to hire in Oregon. But you're probably having to look and find talent in other areas. And so whether that means having people relocate or just doing a remote work situation, that talent shortage does present a challenge because you need to find those people that have that expertise and that have what you are specifically looking for. So because of that, because you may have to be going outside of your market, the importance of employer branding is critical, right? So the employer brand helps set you apart from your competitors and from larger established companies that maybe have a stronger presence, maybe are more well known. But once you have your mission statement, your culture, and you put those opportunities for innovation and things out there, that helps your brand kind of establish your brand and then sets you apart and gives you that competitive edge. And so we'll talk a little bit more about a strong employer brand in just a minute, but that's something to keep in mind when you're thinking about hiring and recruiting talent. Like what is your company's brand? And then when you think about hiring and recruiting, there's a lot of different ways that you can go about it. So there are, recruiters that can help you, that can step in and help you. But there's also a lot of ways that you can leverage your networks and partnerships. And so we are actually very lucky in Oregon to be surrounded by a lot of research institutions. And in fact, actually in a past life, I used to work at one. So there are a lot of colleges and universities that you can tap into and create partnerships with to kind of help find the talent that they are producing, as well as other research institutions and industry networks that I would recommend tapping into and creating those connections with. Okay. So when you are targeting those candidates with those very specialized and particular skills, there's a few things to keep in mind and a few things to kind of utilize. So when you're crafting the job description, being as detailed and clear as possible can certainly only help, right? I have crafted job descriptions before. Sometimes they can be very tedious and they do take a lot of work. But the more detailed and specialized you can be, that is how you are going to be able to find those candidates that truly meet the requirements that you're looking for. So even if you think, oh, it's something I could mention in an interview, as long as you have it on paper, you're going to be getting those right applicants so that you are sifting through the ones who aren't right a lot quicker, right? utilizing the job boards and platforms. So there are a number of them that are geared towards biotech companies. So things like Biospace, I found one called Women in Bio, New Scientist, Jobs US. Those are all really great resources that you can tap into that will help you find candidates, people who are looking for jobs that have those skills that you're looking for. They are unique to the biotech industry. And so tapping into those resources, getting yourself familiarized, those are going to be very, very helpful. And a lot of them will have, maybe a small cost to them, but they will be a lot less than actually going to a recruiting firm and having a recruiter help you. So if you can utilize the job boards and those platforms first, you can also kind of help minimize costs there. Again, leveraging university and research partnerships. So those top tier institutions, which we do have a few of them surrounding us, those they specialize in biotech. They can help provide access to those high quality candidates. So whether it's graduates that are, coming up through their degree pipelines, or for those who are doing postdoctoral research, there's a number of those. Definitely getting in there and having those department heads know who you are and know what you're looking for can be very, very helpful. And then engaging through passive networks. So LinkedIn is a great option. I don't know. I actually personally have just started to kind of up my LinkedIn game just the last couple of years, admittedly, and it's done a world of difference for me. So, and I'm not even in this specialized industry. So being able to do that and tap into those networks, getting coffee with other researchers in the area, or attending those conferences or events. I've stressed this before in our last session, but I can't stress it enough. Getting involved in other organizations that are helping startups in Oregon and in this area, attending events, putting your name and your face out there, so critical. It will only do you favors. So I highly suggest doing that and just really getting to know the market and the industry where we are. Okay, so we're talking about that employer brand and why creating a strong employer brand is very important. So of course, mission critical is getting your mission and your impact down, knowing that really well, why your company exists, what you're there to do, what your aim and your goals are, and putting that front and center, right? So most employees are driven by a company's mission statement. They want to be part of something that's going to be helping people, whether it's developing these life-saving scientific technologies, or advancing scientific knowledge. People want to be a part of that. And so when your mission and your impact are clear and they are front and center, that's only going to help get your brand solidified and help you attract the people that you're looking for. Put it all over your website. Put it all over your social media. Make sure you're talking about it in conversations. People want to be a part of something meaningful. And so letting them know what you're doing that is meaningful is going to be very, very helpful. And then highlighting company culture. So people join for the mission and they stay for the culture. Okay. So this is really important too, where startups may lack in things like, higher salaries or really amazing perks. You can make up for it with company culture. And there's a lot of people who will turn down higher salaries and things at other companies because they like your culture better. And so really harnessing what your company culture is going to be, putting a lot of emphasis and intentionality into that is going to be very, very helpful. You want to promote a culture of collaboration, innovation. I mean, biotech, that is what biotech is innovative, right? So have that innovative culture, flexibility. Those are the things that can kind of help set you apart. The other thing to know too, when you're talking about this, and we're gonna talk about this with employee benefits a little bit, but knowing who your workforce is going to be. Different generations value different things in their employee culture and their company culture. So just kind of keeping that in mind of who you're trying to attract and who you're looking for, and what kind of a culture you want to build for that, is something I really highly recommend. So kind of thinking about flexibility, that's something that a lot of people are really valuing, especially post-pandemic, right? Our entire world's changed, especially work-wise, with the pandemic. And so now people just have different values and expectations coming out of that. And so is that something that you can lend your company culture to? Okay. And then offering professional development opportunities, with biotech, everything's advancing, with the science, with the work that you're doing. But are you thinking about offering ways for people to develop professionally, whether that's, a mentorship program, allowing them to attend conferences, doing other research projects? What can you offer that would help an employee feel like they're being invested in and that they're being developed during their time with you? Those are all very important things to think about. So when you're creating that employer brand, what you're putting forth into the workforce world is you want to attract this talent. What does that look like? And so your mission and impact, your company culture, and then your opportunities for professional development are all things to consider and to make sure you have solidified. Okay. So let's talk about employee benefits, okay? These and actually this is the part where Renee has another poll question she can put up there. So poll question number 2, do you currently offer your employees benefits, or do you plan to in the future? Okay. Okay. So great. We have a couple of people who do offer, or one person who does offer employee benefits. So great. And then a couple have said no, but I plan to in the future. And that's great. So employee benefits are so important. They matter hugely for the employee satisfaction and experience. Okay. So why benefits matter for recruiting? Benefits, a competitive benefits package is critical when you are trying to recruit people and have people come work for you. And there's a number of benefits that we can kind of talk about today. We're really going to focus on mostly like the healthcare side, but there's things like your healthcare package, okay, health, dental, and vision, retirement and savings plans. And that's actually something that we'll talk about in our 3rd session is retirement. So I'm just not really going to touch on that today, but that is a benefit that people look for. And then wellness programs is too. Those can all be deciding factors when candidates are applying for jobs. And so the thing with, again, I think I mentioned this in the last slide, where a lot of startups maybe lack in being able to offer these really high salaries, that's where your benefits package is going to come into play and really help attract people. What you are offering aside from just dollars, right, in a paycheck, can really help an employee make a choice of whether they want to work for you or work for someone else. And so this is crucial. It also helps with employee retention and satisfaction. So a strong benefits package helps attract people, but it also helps keep them. You want to help people feel valued and like you value their time, you value their family and their well-being. And these are all ways that you can help do that. And, just as we talked about that the hiring landscape for biotech is super competitive because of the talent shortage. This is where you can give yourself a competitive edge in that tight market. And so anytime, and I've done it in the past too, where I'm looking, for a role, a job, and I'm comparing company A and company B, where a salary may not be as different or as crucial, I'm looking at benefits. What is this employer offering that can help with my well-being, my health, my family's health, that work-life balance that we all strive for, those kinds of things. And so this is a really good way to help yourself, your company stand apart and be competitive. So they are a key factor. And we'll talk about them again in just a second. But talking about compliance. So compliance is something that a lot of companies, especially startups, don't necessarily think about. It's one of those topics that, I'll be completely honest, is not the most sexy or exciting topic to talk about, is compliance. And for a lot of people, it's because A, they don't want to think about it, or B, they don't know how to do it. Or they don't know the importance of it. So as you grow, remaining compliant to not only the state of Oregon, but if you are looking at hiring across state lines in different areas, compliance is huge. Every state has their own regulations and rules and complexities regarding different employment things. And so just making sure that you are adhering to all of those is extremely vital, because the consequences of not doing it are pretty vast. So there are agencies called registered agent services. And these are something that if you are hiring in a different state, okay, let's say that, you're trying to hire in Oregon, but you found your talent over in, I don't know, Kentucky, for instance. Having a registered agent in Kentucky is going to be very, very crucial. And so these are agencies that represent you on your behalf in those other states, that can handle anything that comes to legal documents, tax filings, business licenses, annual reports, all of that stuff. A registered agent is there to help you do that. Typically, registered agent costs are pretty low. It depends on the agency, and then they have their own cost per state. But the cost of not having one and then having something legal come around and bite you is far worse. So if you are hiring in other states, or it's something you're considering, I definitely want to encourage you to look into a registered agent service. Again, it's not the most exciting or sexy thing you're going to do as a startup, but it's so crucial. Kind of just talking about that multi-state hiring. So there's states have different things with like employment laws, payroll, workers' comp, the benefits requirements. And so you want to make sure that you are up to date with all of that. Not to mention, this takes me back to when I worked, my days working retail, right? You'd always see in the break room all those posters that were posted, right? So you're right, know your rights as an employee, break times and all that kind of stuff. I mean, every state has a zillion laws when it comes to employment. If you hire in another state, even if it's a virtual employee, you still have to know those things and have those posters available for your employees. So things like that, and registered agents can take care of that. There are some other things that can help with that too that I'll kind of touch on a little bit later. But just know that just because you find, this great employee in another state and they sign on the dotted, that's the end of it. You have to do your due diligence of making sure you know what each state is requiring of you as a company. And like I said, if you don't adhere to those things and then something happens, you miss a filing or a deadline, those consequences can be very, very costly. And it's just something you want to avoid altogether if you can. Just keep yourself out of hot water. So when we talk about benefits, the key benefits for employee benefits for biotech startups. So I kind of briefly touched on health, dental, and vision insurance. There are so many options for this. And these are kind of the baseline, right? When an employee is looking for a job, health, dental, and vision is kind of almost an expected now. Okay, so you want to keep that in mind. You want to definitely do your market research. There are resources out there, and I'll touch on that later, for smaller startups that can be more cost effective for insurance, plans. But employees are, this is an expectation for them now, that they are expected to be able to have health, dental, and vision insurance. Again, retirement plans and stock options. Now, stock options is something, way down the line for a lot of startups, especially biotech. That's something that's not even going to come until a lot later. But the retirement plans is something that, and until you have like a robust team, is probably not something that you'll be looking at, but it's something that you should be planning for. And so just knowing, again, and there are state regulations on that, knowing what you have to offer and how that can be administered to employees, that's all really important as well. So like Oregon has the Oregon Saves, I think is what they call it. And that's kind of just, if an employer isn't offering a retirement plan, then Oregon Saves has to be a mandatory option for an employee to take part of, just in case anyone didn't know that. And then wellness programs. So, oh my goodness, wellness programs are a great benefit. A lot of insurance companies actually, so health insurance companies will kind of offer their own wellness program through the insurance company. And that can be really nice because it can help employees save money on things like their deductibles and things like that. But there's also so many other things that can be offered, right? So there's all those apps out there for stress management. So I actually previously worked for an employer that they gave us all subscriptions to the Calm app, which I thought was pretty cool. But gym memberships, mental health counseling, things like that, anything that can help your employee and or their family maintain a healthy, active, well-rounded lifestyle that contributes to their well-being. Those are super helpful, and those can be great low-cost benefits that you can offer your employees. And then PTO and parental policies. So this is something I touched on. People are all about flexibility now. I think I'd add to that as well, a work from home policy, or what does flexible work look like, right? So there's a huge movement for companies to go from not only a generous paid time off, but to a flexible paid time off. So, where they'll set like a minimum, you have to take a minimum of 3 weeks, and then, those are huge. Same with parental leave. So again, this is where kind of knowing your workforce and knowing who you're hiring is really important, because someone who is starting a family, or that may be starting a family, would want to have that parental leave option, right? So, and the flexibility that comes along with that. So a work from home policy, or, things like that. These are all benefits to consider, to know what your stance is, to know your employee market, who you're trying to hire. Those are all things to take into consideration when you are building out your benefits plan and your benefits package, what you're going to offer to employees. So some key takeaways from today. Recruiting for biotech is highly specialized. So making sure you're taking advantage of the resources that are available to you with those job boards. Those are, can be some low cost options to help you get those jobs out there and marketed. Make sure you know who you're looking for, what those skills are, what's important to you, right? And then as you do that, having your strong employer brand. So really knowing your mission, your impact, your opportunities for growth, and your company culture, those are going to help you shape that employer brand, put it out there, and find the talent that you're looking for. Compliance. So, we mentioned that the talent market is really highly competitive. It's very fierce right now with the talent shortage. And so you may have to look outside of, Oregon or even Southwest Washington, and need to hire in other states. And so there are critical things that you want to make sure you do, boxes that you check when you're doing that, to make sure that you are maintaining compliance utilizing the resources that are available to you, like a registered agent service, things like that, to help keep you out of some hot water and some really not fun consequences. And then offering a competitive benefits package. So this not only helps you attract employees, but drives that retention and helps you grow ultimately, right? So again, sometimes in lieu of a crazy amazing salary as a startup, we all know that's not always possible. That's hard to do. But what can you offer an employee? What can you give them that shows that you value them, you value their time, you're committed to their well-being and the well-being of their family? That's really only going to serve you in the long run as you grow. And so these are some things that, if you take anything away from that, I hope it's these 4 things. And just a little bit about TechWorks. So I am the executive director of TechWorks. We are a nonprofit association. We do exist to serve tech companies in Oregon, which includes biotech. And so I just want to make sure that's known. We do serve biotech companies. We are here for you. We have a slew of resources that can save biotech companies significant money on everything we talked about today. So everything from the health plans and the registered agents, all that stuff. If you have questions or you want more information, please let me know. Reach out. I'm happy to give you that information and to talk with you. In fact, this Thursday we are hosting what we call a Rad Work Day. It's just a casual co-working and networking day. It is from 10 to 3, but we do have people sign up by time slot. So if you can only come from 10 to 11, that's perfectly fine. If you want to come for the whole day, we encourage that as well, but it's totally up to you. And we always do a lunch and learn discussion. I do provide lunch. And our topic this week, this month, is AI and marketing. So we are going to cover and explore how AI is affecting marketing and what that looks like. What are some do's and don'ts? So I'm excited about that one. The last time we did an AI conversation, it was very popular. So if you want information about that, reach out to me on LinkedIn, or you can email me. My email is here, phone number is here, our website, and then of course our LinkedIn. If you don't come on Thursday, that's perfectly fine. But at the very least, I encourage you follow us on LinkedIn. That's where we post all of our events and upcoming things. And I'd love to engage with you. And with that, questions and answers.
So feel free to unmute yourself and ask any questions you have for Tara. I do have a couple, so I can launch us into the Q&A if that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Circling back to the hiring part, the hiring section, do you think that networking events is a good way to actually find candidates? Like they say, go out and network. And, what's your experience with actually finding qualified candidates at these events?
So, potentially, right? So it depends on the events you're going to and who's signing up and going to them. You may find a qualified candidate, and you've struck gold. But the bigger thing to that would be getting other people who know those qualified candidates to know who you are and to know who you're looking for. And so I have found that I have had so many more opportunities just in my line of work with what I'm doing with TechWorks, and not necessarily with hiring people, but just in general, but by going to these events and networking with people, getting my brand, my name, my face, our organization out there. I have been able to sit across from people and just say, this is what we're looking for. This is what we need as an organization. And they might not have exactly that, but they know someone who does. And so that's why these networking events are just, I just think the world of them. I think they're so crucial because it helps people get to know who you are and get to know your brand. So that brand we talk about putting forward, the more people who know about your brand and know what it is, the more successful you're going to be, I think.
Excellent. Okay, my second question is jumping forward to the benefits. You talked about the wellness programs. How likely, or do you have any insight of, how likely are the employees to actually utilize this benefit?
That's a good question. It depends on I think it depends on the benefit they're offering. Not everyone's gonna use a subscription to a Calm app. And not everyone's gonna use a gym membership, but I think giving employees the option of, maybe one or the other, or, um, piloting something, and then if it's not being utilized, then asking your employee for, your workforce, if you're not using this, what would be more beneficial to you? Um, that's where I think getting to know your workforce and who you're hiring is a good thing to do, because it doesn't help to offer things that no one's using. But you can always start with something, try it out, and then, that's not working. Okay, we're going to move over to this based on employee feedback. So hopefully that kind of answers your question.
Yeah, absolutely. Perfect. Okay, we have time for some more questions. If anyone wants to unmute and ask, or feel free to write it in the chat and I'll read it out. Well, I think it was so thorough, we don't have any extra questions for you.
That
Well,
is
that's great. We can, we got
oh,
someone.
great.
Nora, she says, can you talk a bit more about the standard percent for matching for employee retirement?
Okay. Only based on what I've seen. I see a lot that 3% is like a pretty common number, anywhere from 3 to 5%. Um, there are so many different retirement plans and options that you can go through. That is something I do plan to cover in our next session. But in terms of just kind of a blanket answer, 3 to 5% is what I usually see.
Okay, yeah, I was just wondering if what is typical for a startup situation. Obviously, in larger companies, the matching might be more significant. So I was just kind of
Yep.
about what would be appropriate.
Well, totally. It's actually for a startup. Um, that is offering a retirement plan with any kind of match. That's
Yeah,
amazing for a startup. Um,
right.
a lot of times startups don't do that. Until they get to a certain threshold, right? A certain employee count or a certain revenue marker. Um, and that's why I think so, rather than just not offering a retirement plan at all, that's where the state of Oregon has stepped in to say, okay, well, if you can't offer company a retirement plan for your employees, then there's this Oregon Saves option that actually every employee is opted into, and then they have to opt themselves out. So, anyway, that's
Another option.
yeah.
Okay. I'm from a startup and we didn't have that available to us at first. And then, like you mentioned, as the company grew and developed, that was something that became available.
Yeah, that's definitely one that an employer has to see pretty significant growth to be able to offer that.
Yeah.
Just because of the nature of what a startup is. You're scraping by for a while, but yeah.
Thank you, Nora. Another question is there any data you could provide insights on that show what the employees tend to lean toward outside of the standard health benefits?
Um, Probably. I would need to look that up and I could email it to you, but I don't have it off the top of my head. Just anecdotally, Um, a lot of people, aside from what kind of perks an employer is going to offer, obviously there's the health, vision, and dental, which I said is kind of just a minimum expectation now for employees. That PTO, that flexibility, that is one that people are really looking towards. I've heard of a lot of people who are like, I got a family, or I have this or that obligation, and I want that work-life balance. I need that work-life balance. So whether it's work from home, And we actually have a partner at TechWorks who could also attest to that, that the work from home or flexible work, because not necessarily it's working from home, but the flexibility to work from other places and not going to an office 5 days a week. Those are all things that employees are highly seeking after. So if there's anything, if I could offer advice aside from a health, vision, and dental package, really look at your PTO and your flexible work policy and just make sure you're comfortable with what you're offering, but also make sure it's going to be beneficial for the people you're hiring.
Okay, we got some more questions rolling in. Can you speak a bit more to the challenges of finding health benefit packages for small companies? Not many providers offer small company packages.
Yes, I can. It's very costly. So I should say it can be very costly. There are so many nuances that go into obtaining a health plan. Who your provider is going to be, but when you go to the small market, which is what a startup would be considered, one challenge is employee count. So there are certain providers and plans that will require you to have a minimum employee count. So that's something that you'll need to look into. Otherwise you can do individual coverage, which can get very expensive. So that is one challenge. The other challenge though is even if you have that minimum employee count, it can just still in the small market be so expensive. You're either looking at very high deductibles to try to get that low premium, or you're looking at a very high premium. And so a lot of times that cost gets passed on to the employee. There are resources out there, and I have one at TechWorks. So if you're more interested in knowing more about that, you can reach out to me. I would love to talk to you about it. But where there are ways to get access to a large group association plan, where you as a small company can jump into a larger pool and have much greater buying power for typically a lot less money. So we were able to, at TechWorks with that plan, save a tech company when they switched from the small market into the large group association plan. We saved them 40% on their healthcare costs. So those resources are out there.
40% or 14%?
40.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah. Benefits is one of the things I have more knowledge in. So if you want to talk to me or have conversations, please email me. Or I'm happy to set up a Zoom call or even a cup of coffee. We can talk about that.
Excellent. You got time for one more question?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
For the biotech company, what would be the additional cost of the benefits on top of the employee salary?
That's a good question. It's going to depend. It's going to depend on what you as the employer plan to cover versus the cost you pass on to the employee. And it depends on the provider, the plan. Typically, if you are, I've seen this number before. So if you're offering a $60,000 salary, I'm just ballparking numbers here, by the way, so don't take this as gospel truth, but you can typically, plan to see, okay, if I'm offering a $60,000 salary and I'm offering, vision, dental, health, and, it's a reasonable deductible at a reasonable premium rate for the employee, then you can typically say that your total cost of employing this person, salary included, is going to be closer to 70 or 80,000. So, but again, it just depends on the coverage, the plan, who you're with, your broker. Those are all really good things to consider and to do your homework on. There is a very cool tool that we have access to where you can actually build an entire employee cost. It's called an employee cost calculator. And so you can build that out based on what you're paying the employee and what benefits you're offering, and it will give you a number for what that total cost of the employee is.
Wonderful. Okay. Do we have any more questions? I don't see any more. Okay, excellent. Thank you everyone for this outstanding discussion. Thank you everyone for your great questions, diving deep into these sometimes convoluted topics. And a special thanks to Tara for sharing her valuable insights and experiences, which have greatly contributed to our understanding of navigating expansion and hiring. I want to let you guys know that this program has been recorded, and I will be sending this out along with her Tara's slide deck later in the week. So look for that in your email. Thank you for coming, and we hope to see you again at another event very soon. We do have a link in our chat there for our events that we are putting on at OBI. Also want to let you know the survey is going to pop up on your screen when the session is over. And please, I would love it if you take our survey, because that really helps me to know what kind of programs you want and what programs to speak to you. So thank you for attending today. Also, we have session 3. Is that what you're going to say, Tara?
Actually, I was going to say I will be there tomorrow. So if
Yes,
you have
yes.
more questions and want to follow up with me in person, I will be at OBI tomorrow.
Perfect. And then I also don't want to forget to say we have session 3 already scheduled. It will be coming to you on November 12th. So please keep an eye out for that in your email for an invitation to wrap up this session with Tara and our Biotech Business Bootcamp. So thank you, everyone, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you, Adrian. Thank you, everybody.